White House ripping MSNBC's, quote, desperate story after a left-wing journalist releases President Trump's illegally leaked tax returns.
A greater concern, the worry that this president may be financially beholden to an individual, to an institution, to a country.
So, what did we really learn from the 2 pages that show nothing? We're live in Washington to break it all down.
And a Fox News alert infiltrating America. The brand new warning about jihadis skirting the new immigration order to sneak into our country.
And playtime is over. Tag banned at an elementary school. What? Because it's too rough. Yep, it's true. Fox and Friends First starts right now.
Live look there at New York City after a long day of snow and ice and rain and cold temperatures. But we are up and going this morning. Happy to be here. Good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Wednesday morning. I'm Abby Hudson.
Yes, we were spared the brunt of it here in New York City. Bad. Yeah, but it's going to be cold for a while, so get used to it. I'm Heather Childers. Thank you so much for starting your day with us, as always. We appreciate it. We begin with the White House blasting MSNBC's report on President Trump's tax documents leaked illegally, calling the network desperate.
Rachel Maddow spending her entire show on 2 pages back from 2005 that revealed absolutely nothing.
What I have here is a copy of Donald Trump's tax return. For the record, the First Amendment gives us the right to publish this return. It is not illegally published, nor are we fake. Pinch me, I'm real.
Garrett Tenney live in Washington, D.C. with how quickly the report actually backfired. Garrett?
Hey, Garrett.
Heather and Abby, good morning to you. You'll remember during the 2016 election that Donald Trump's tax returns became one of the leading issues in go-to attack lines from Democrats, many of whom suggested that the Republican nominee likely either didn't make as much money as he claimed or that he hadn't paid anything at all in taxes. But last night on MSNBC, Rachel Maddow revealed a 2-page summary of Mr. Trump's 2005 federal tax return showing in that year alone he made $153 million and paid $36.5 million in taxes. Now, for 2005, that would mean that Donald Trump, the businessman, paid an effective tax rate of 24.5%. To put that in perspective, the average American pays about 10%. In 2015, then President Obama paid just under 19, Comcast, which owns MSNBC, paid 24, and Bernie Sanders paid just 13.5 in 2014. Prior to MSNBC's report, a senior administration official told Fox News, "You know you are desperate for ratings when you are willing to violate the law to push a story about 2 pages of tax returns from over a decade ago. The dishonest media can continue to make this part of their agenda while the president will focus on his, which includes tax reform that will benefit all Americans." But still, Maddow said there could still be more in the president's full tax returns, and she is going to continue to push for the release.
The big, almost existential worry, the greater concern, the worry that this president may be financially beholden to an individual, to an institution, to a country. We can't know any of that without getting his tax returns. I am sure it is only the start, but it's a start, and our little piece of it.
And as for the status of his tax returns on the campaign trail, Donald Trump said that he would release them as soon as the IRS completed its audit. But since the election, the White House has stepped back on that and indicated the president now has no plans to release them. Heather and Abby.
All right.
What a night it was. Thank you for breaking that down, Garrett.
Yeah, going to be talked about a lot throughout today. Thank you. Well, the tax return leak, just the latest in a long line of information unofficially making its way to the press.
ACLJ Chief Counsel Jay Sekulow and radio host Laura Ingraham explain the legal ramifications and why every American should be worried about these kinds of leaks.
This should concern every American, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, it does not matter. When the government starts leaking tax information, this is a bad day for the United States. We're talking about a then private citizen's tax return and tax return information that may well have originated and been disclosed by the United States Department of the Treasury, the Internal Revenue Service. And employees that do that are guilty of a crime. And we've got to realize that what's going on here. You oppose the president, you do that through policy. You don't do it through leaking information.
Those who leak this information must be found, must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Absolutely.
Only a certain number of people have access to this information. That digital footprint is there. It can be rooted out. Everyone needs to be brought in. Everyone needs to be deposed. Everyone needs to lie detector tests, and you have to figure this out. Until that's done, I don't think anyone in the Trump administration is safe.
Meantime, President Trump back on the road, taking his health care pitch to the people in Nashville today. This as Republicans try to rally support for their plan ahead of a big test on Capitol Hill. Marianne Rafferty joins us now live with the next big hurdle. Hi, Marianne. Nice to see you.
Well, good morning, Heather and Abby. Nice to see you, too, as well. The president's heading to the Music City to sing the praises of the GOP health care plan at a big rally tonight. Republican leaders will also be hard at work in Washington selling the bill during that visit. House Speaker Paul Ryan spoke with the president by phone about its progress. The speaker telling our Martha McCallum it's a tricky process.
We have to write this in such a way that it can't get filibustered, that it can pass with 51 votes in the Senate. And that means this legislation can't have everything we want in it. That's why we have a three-part process. It's clear to me that Democrats aren't going to help us on a lot of things, like repealing Obamacare. That's why we're using reconciliation.
The bill is about to face its biggest hurdle yet with a vote in the House Budget Committee tomorrow. Several members of the House Freedom Caucus are on that committee and have threatened to vote against the bill. They feel it doesn't go far enough in repealing Obamacare. If 4 Republicans join Democrats and vote no, then it fails. But Speaker Ryan says he's willing to make changes.
That's what we've been doing all week long. That's what we've been doing this entire process. Okay. So, of course, the Budget Committee takes this up on Thursday. So those discussions about what kind of modifications, those are ongoing discussions.
So you are open to changes?
Of course we are. But we got to make sure we hit the sweet spot so we keep consensus and we got to get it done.
Now, if the bill gets to the Senate floor, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says it will also be open to changes. The Congressional Office budget report that 24 million people will lose coverage is also scaring away some Republican support. But the White House firing back, calling the CBO estimates, quote, consistently wrong. Abby, Heather?
All right. We'll have a little bit more of that later on in the show. Marianne, good to see you this morning.
Thank you, Marianne.
Thanks for that.
Good to see you.
All right. Well, 2 more of President Trump's cabinet picks set to be confirmed today. The Senate expected to break a filibuster for Dan Coats, making him the new director of national intelligence. And General H.R. McMaster, nominated for National Security Advisor, needs a so-called blessing from lawmakers today, allowing him to stay in active duty and keep his current military rank.
Well, disgraced Army deserter Sergeant Bo Bergdahl will stand trial. An Army appeals court deciding not to dismiss charges based on President Trump's campaign comments.
He's a traitor, a no-good traitor. And 30 years ago, he would have been shot. He was a dirty, rotten deserter.
Bergdahl's lawyer arguing that President Trump's comments tainted his chances to have a fair trial. Now, Bergdahl was exchanged for 5 Afghanistan prisoners back in 2014 after walking off his base in 2009. He is facing desertion charges and 5 years in prison. And now to some big weather news. Extreme weather. The Northeast getting back on track after a monster winter storm wreaks havoc, and snow was not the only problem.
No, it was not. Fierce winds, gusts blowing down power lines, leaving thousands without power, and high tides flooding coastal communities.
Rob Schmidt is live for us in Central Park with the latest on the cleanup. I heard it was beautiful over there at Central Park, though.
Hey, Rob.
It's beautiful here, but I bet you guys are a lot warmer than I am right now. It is very cold outside today. Yeah, no, I know you are. Yeah, we got maybe 7 inches here in Central Park. It wasn't that big storm that we expected here in the city, but that doesn't mean the storm didn't hit. It certainly did. Some areas further inland got 30 inches of snow in some parts, so it was almost more than they expected in some parts. But here in the cities in Philadelphia and New York, it didn't really hit with the power that we expected it to. But it was a nasty storm. You remember it snowed, and then it would sleet, and then it started raining, and all that mixed together has made for a very hard-packed snow that's just almost icy. and just really, really tough to get up. I think it's going to be sticking around for a while, too, because it's staying cold here for the next few days. We have hundreds of thousands of people without power here along the East Coast. As we check out some video here, you can see just a little remembering of how bad it was yesterday and just how nasty that storm got. Even here in the city, when we didn't get all that snowfall, it was just gross outside, and those pellets of ice hitting you in the face. I remember that doing my live shots, getting wind blasted by ice as it sleeted. Just a bad storm. At the airports, thousands of airlines thousands of flights, I should say, canceled, numerous airlines canceling flights, many stranded at the airports. But you did hear stories about people getting out yesterday. I had a friend that was only delayed about an hour. So one last piece of video, just some giant waves hitting the shores of New Hampshire and Massachusetts, just an indication of just how cold that storm was as those waves come crashing ashore in the snow. Ladies, we'll send it back to you.
All right, you are a trooper this morning to hang outside, Rob. We appreciate it. It was the wind that was so bad yesterday.
It was. You could hear it last night. I'm way up in the top of a tower, and my apartment was going like this.
Yeah, my dog was going nuts. Thank you, Rob.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Rob. Well, the freeze after the storm.
The freeze after the storm. Temperatures are now plunging, as we said earlier.
Yeah, meteorologist Adam Klotz here tracking the latest on that forecast. Adam, is there another storm right behind this one?
No, we're not talking about another storm. Maybe a little bit more snow in the Northeast here getting into the weekend. Not a big storm, but those temperatures plummeting, as you said. The snow we've seen, it's not going to go anywhere. Here's what we're looking at. This is just the very tail end of the last storm. Still a little bit of snow up in extreme north New York and then stretching across New England. That's going to continue, but kind of move on out here throughout the rest of the day. The totals in some cases were very impressive. Yes, getting up into the 30-inch range in upstate New York. That's the case in upstate Pennsylvania as well. So there's been a lot of snow out there. And as I said, just nowhere for it to go. These temperatures incredibly cold right now in the next couple of days. Right now we're looking at temperatures 21 degrees here in New York City. Plenty of places back into the teens. Staying windy out there, which makes it feel only colder. The wind chill feeling, 7 degrees currently in New York City, 7 degrees in Boston. And again, it's not just the Northeast. The entire East Coast is about to plunge into some very cold air. Take a look at this. These are freeze advisories stretching all the way down into central Florida. That's for tomorrow morning. So cold air, it's sticking around here for a little while, guys.
Yeah, Old Man Winter still showing us who's in charge.
Yep.
I shouldn't tell you, Heather, I'm going to Florida for a wedding this weekend.
No fair.
It's like the only place that's nice.
Yeah, Shepard Smith was showing pictures of that yesterday.
The contrast?
I said he was so mean, yes. Well, the time now is 10 minutes after the top of the hour. Don't call it a sanctuary city. The town that now is just welcoming illegal immigrants with open arms in defiance of President Trump.
And who needs peanuts? The airline that is bringing meals back, free food in flight.
And bring in the PC police if they can't be kings and queens of the prom. What are they? The university creating a firestorm by dropping a time-honored tradition.
Love affair, and we'll never be royal. It's a run in our blood. That kind of love just ain't for us. We crave a different kind of buzz. Let me be your ruler.
And we're back with a Fox News alert over a serious threat for homegrown terror. Security experts say we have been ushering jihadis right through our borders, and for decades. The R1 visa program, designed to admit non-immigrant clerics and religious workers for up to 5 years, they say terrorists are using it to slip through the cracks. The Obama administration issued more than 23,000 visas during the former president's second term.
Well, Republican senators demanding that the Secretary of State Rex Tillerson launch an investigation into the Obama administration. They're accusing the former president of using your tax dollars to sway foreign elections for years. Those lawmakers disclosing conversations with foreign diplomats who they say provided credible evidence outlining left-leaning political meddling in Macedonia, Albania, Latin America, and Africa. They also say a portion of the funding went to programs led by liberal billionaire George Soros. And a congressman taking action demanding portraits of President Trump and the VA secretary be hung back up at a VA hospital. 2 veterans reaching out to Representative Brian Mast, outraged because the frames were sitting empty at the center in West Palm Beach, Florida. So Mast marched into the facility with pictures in hand.
Happy to be able to get these hung up. We always say in the Army, right? Nothing takes 5 minutes.
He was able to get the job done, but shortly after he left, they were taken back down. A VA spokesman says portraits on display need to come from the central office.
Take a listen to this one. The homecoming king and queen are dead. Long live the gender-neutral royals. The University of Minnesota scrapping the traditional titles in their homecoming court in the name of inclusivity. Taking it one step further, their school also pointing out that the winners don't even have to be one biological male and one biological female. The 10 students on the entire homecoming court can also be a combination of any gender. Also, this one this morning, it's an age-old game and a childhood tradition, but now an elementary school is sparking outrage for, listen to this, banning kids from playing tag during recess. Why?
Well, the principal in California saying that it can be too rough, the move not sitting well with parents.
It's something we all did as kids, and I never seen any harm come from it.
Well, the punishment now, if a student is caught playing tag, Abby, a parent-teacher conference.
What is
the dreaded parent-teacher conference.
No homecoming king or queen, and no tag. Then what can you play?
I don't know. It's too concerned about lawyers getting involved, I think.
You just have to sit and smile.
Yeah. Well, the time now is 17 minutes after the top of the hour, and Rachel Maddow spent an entire hour dedicated to two pages of President Trump's tax returns. But the internet, not too impressed. The hilarious reactions setting social media on fire.
And that monster snowstorm, not as bad as promised, but there was chaos on the streets and instead ended up raining cats and dogs. The runaway ponies who braved the storm to make a mad dash for freedom. That's coming up.
Don't miss Carly Shimkus up next with all things trending.
This place I'm living, how far is heaven? And
Beautiful scene out in New York City, but it is dangerous out there. We've been talking about the ice and the wind. It's not going to melt for a while.
Dangerous and cold.
Yes.
Bundle up today.
Well, welcome back to Fox and Friends First. MSNBC host Rachel Maddow touting an exclusive reveal on President Trump's tax returns.
What I have here is a copy of Donald Trump's tax return. Aside from the numbers being large, these pages are straightforward. For the record, the First Amendment gives us the right to publish this return. It is not illegally published, nor are we fake. Pinch me, I'm real.
But social media, they went wild when viewers quickly realized there wasn't actually anything to reveal. Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115. People waited and waited and waited, and kind of nothing.
And when news broke that Rachel Maddow had these tax returns, the suspense, the intrigue, everyone on social media was talking about it, which caused Rachel Maddow's name to trend. Now, it all started out with a single tweet. Breaking, we've got Trump tax returns seriously. Well, it turns out the headline really was the fact that she got her hands on the returns itself. And some folks on social media felt the whole thing was just a total bust, and complaints came pouring in. Ryan tweeting, Rachel Maddow, you utter buffoon. Your exclusive is that Donald Trump paid his taxes. Another person writing, Rachel Maddow just revealed that Trump's tax returns show he paid $38 million in taxes in 2005. She just got Mr. Trump reelected in 2020. And take a look at this one from Donald Trump Jr. Good night, all. Thank you. Maddow. Not sure that's what she was looking for. Well, she said during the show that the big takeaway from all of this is that President Trump's tax returns were, in fact, obtainable.
Yeah, sort of a big miss there. Sort of a nothing burger.
Yes.
Twitter, this is when Twitter is so entertaining.
Yes, exactly. The funny nothing burger
Conversations
tweets.
Back and forth.
I love that phrase, too.
Something people are not saying was too funny is Chelsea Handler. She slammed Kellyanne Conway.
That's right. She sure did. Self-proclaimed feminist Chelsea Handler taking heat from women for a recent tweet attacking Kellyanne Conway. Now, following Conway's microwave remark, the comedian wrote, I wish someone would put Kellyanne Conway in a microwave. Handler getting slammed online for this remark. One woman reminding her of the time she said this, we have a problem with women supporting women. I know I can do and I will do better. It starts now. Well, Rose says, I love all you feminists that believe in supporting other women. A bunch of hypocrites.
Yeah,
Gotta talk the talk and walk the walk.
Yeah, the hypocrisy runs rampant on
She's
Twitter.
She's been on a nasty tirade, rather, for the last year
absolutely.
or so. All right,
Very divisive.
We all saw this video last week. We all needed this laugh in our lives. The dad is responding to that BBC interview, like I said, when the kids came in and the whole thing went viral.
I was so excited to hear what the heck went down with this, and they certainly delivered. It all started off as a serious interview and ended as a seriously adorable comedy of errors. The father, who became famous after his kids crashed his BBC interview, finally revealing some details behind that hilarious moment. Take a listen.
I was actually able to see as soon as Yana walked in the door. I was just hoping that my wife would eventually see it and maybe find some way to sort of run them out of the room. I was just sort of maintaining a straight face, hoping to get through it.
Look at those kids. I love this family. Professor Robert Kelly, his spouse, and kids deliberately taking part in some interviews yesterday. He also addressed one thing folks on social media have been wondering. He says, yes, he was in fact wearing pants at the time.
I didn't know people were wondering that.
Of course. That's so classic on social
exactly.
media.
Maybe sweatpants. He never addressed that.
Those kids are so cute.
No matter how many times I saw that video, I laughed every single time.
You could just watch it on repeat. I completely agree. If you're ever in a bad mood, that's the go-to move.
Well, you know, kids and ponies or puppies. These are ponies. And they were out in the snow.
These are ponies, but they're the size of puppies. Residents in Staten Island, New York, were in for a big surprise when they spotted two miniature ponies strolling down one of the busiest city streets during yesterday's storm. Can you believe it? The tiny horses escaped from a nearby stable and decided to make a run for it. Police were able to wrangle the two fugitives and bring them to safety. I don't know, guys. I think maybe they were trying to head straight to the North Pole. They love the snow. They wanted more of it.
A little stroll in the snow.
Yeah, who doesn't?
They were jealous of the llamas that are always escaping.
Their snow angel would look very interesting.
Some good stories today, Carly.
Thanks a lot. Thanks so much. Yeah, a lot going on today.
Going on. You know the little kid, the first little kid that broke into the office and was on TV in the yellow sweater? They said that's going to be a big Halloween costume.
I bet it will. Good idea.
Well, the time now is 26 minutes after the top of the hour, and we'll have more on the mainstream media's obsession over President Trump's tax returns. But is there something else going on here?
What Rachel Maddow did tonight, if you could stomach, was a flat-out pathetic conspiratorial attempt to smear the president.
Why our Sean Hannity says the networks are waging jihad against this administration. Stick with us.
Good morning to you, little Michael Jackson, to get you up and moving today. You're watching Fox and Friends First. We appreciate it. I'm Heather Childress.
Good morning. I'm Abby Huntsman. It's currently 30 after the hour. And this is what we're back with. The White House is blasting MSNBC's report on President Trump's tax documents leaked illegally, calling the network, quote, desperate.
Rachel Maddow spending her whole show on 2 pages back from 2005 that revealed absolutely nothing.
What I have here is a copy of Donald Trump's tax return. For the record, the First Amendment gives us the right to publish this return. It is not illegally published, nor are we fake. Pinch me, I'm real.
Garrett Tenney's live for us in Washington, D.C. with how the report quickly backfired. Good morning, Garrett.
Hey, Garrett.
Heather and Abby, good morning to y'all. Well, in terms of what is in these documents, there are only 2 pages. It's just the summary of his 2005 taxes. And for that year at least, the document appears to swat down many of the allegations that Democrats were throwing around during the election, such as Mr. Trump not making as much money as he claimed, or that he paid nothing at all in taxes. In fact, the 2-page summary shows that in 2005, Donald Trump, the businessman, made $135 million, and he paid nearly a fourth of that to the government in taxes, meaning his effective tax rate was about 25%. To put that in perspective, the average American pays about 10%. In 2015, President Obama paid just under 19%. Comcast, which owns MSNBC, also paid less at 24%. And in 2014, Bernie Sanders paid just 13.5%. Now, ahead of MSNBC's report, a senior administration official dismissed the story, telling Fox News in a statement, "You know you are desperate for ratings when you are willing to violate the law to push a story about 2 pages of tax returns from over a decade ago. The dishonest media can continue to make this part of their agenda, while the president will focus on his, which includes tax reform that will benefit all Americans." But MSNBC's Rachel Maddow defended the report and said the president's tax returns are still an important issue for the public.
This document has surfaced. It has been handed to a reporter. And that's an important part of this story. Whether or not you care what's in his tax returns, it ought to give you pause that his explanation for why he couldn't release them, the "I'm under audit" excuse, makes no sense. Is the president in a position where we need to watch to make sure he is not paying off his past benefactors with our country's resources, with U.S. policy, with decisions that he can make as president?
And don't expect any updates from the White House on the president's tax returns. Following the inauguration, his staff indicated that the issue was over and said he has no plans to make them public even after the IRS completes its audit. Heather Nappy.
I bet Sean Spicer will get asked about that today in the press.
I'm sure they have an answer prepared for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Garrett.
Kind of a nothing burger. Thank you, Garrett.
Well, Maddow spent her entire show, if you didn't see it, on those tax returns, but Sean Hannity says it's just another example of a, quote, corporate jihad being waged by NBC against the president.
Just a short time ago, one of the Trump-hating hosts over at NBC News, who is really one of the leaders of the alt-left propaganda, destroy Trump at all cost media, well, she got her hands on President Trump's 2 pages of his 2005 tax return. By the way, that's a felony. They say they found it in a mailbox, and it could be related to the Russians. All the conspiracies, it's a concerted effort by a so-called news organization. Why? Perhaps to take down the president. And what Rachel Maddow did tonight, if you could stomach, I actually laughed. It actually made me laugh, frankly, harder than I have in 10 years, was a flat-out pathetic conspiratorial attempt to smear the president.
So tell us, what do you think? Is there any substance here, or is it all just smoke and mirrors to try and take down the president? Weigh in on our Fox and Friends First Facebook page right after the show. Hashtag keep talking.
Well, Snoop Dogg's music video depicting a President Trump assassination now has the Secret Service's attention. That is part of the rapper's disgusting video sparking nationwide outrage. Well, now the president's top security team says they are aware of it, but are not releasing details on if they are investigating.
Well, defying our president, San Carlos, California is moving one step closer to becoming a sanctuary city for illegal immigrants, voting to be a, quote, welcoming city. City Council approving a resolution banning local police from cooperating with the feds to help enforce immigration laws. The move putting people who live in San Carlos legally at risk of losing federal funding. Coming up at 7 o'clock in that hour, a Fox and Friends Vice Mayor from San Carlos, Matt Grocott, will join us live. And they take an oath to be true to their beliefs. But now, Canadian Girl Scouts are being thrown into a political controversy without any say. The organization, with members as young as 5 years old, now refusing to take any trips to the U.S. in protest of the president's immigration order, saying, quote, "We hope that members will appreciate this reflects our commitment to inclusivity and equal opportunities for all girls and women."
Republicans in Congress leading the charge to prevent drug users from receiving your tax dollars, passing legislation to repeal an Obama-era rule that essentially took away a state's ability to drug test before doling out unemployment. The previous administration only allowed states to deny benefits to people looking for jobs in certain industries and used language that Republicans say made it impossible to keep federal dollars from being spent on drugs.
Well, taking gender equality to a whole new level, the American Association of Physics Teachers now using pronoun stickers at a winter meeting.
Yeah, a notice about the change says the stickers will be attached to name tags so people can quickly tell which pronoun they want to go by. In addition to he and she, there's also Z or ZER.
Well, organizers say that it is to avoid cases of misgendering. Is that a new word, misgendering?
I'll take it. And now, of course, to extreme weather in the Northeast, cleaning up after being pummeled with snow, wind, and ice.
In Boston, a tractor-trailer sliding on the ice, jackknifing across several lanes.
And fire and ice in upstate New York, sparks flying when a power line falls to the ground, as you can see there.
And then in Pennsylvania, this toddler raced through the snow for a heart transplant, a snowplow and the National Guard leading the way.
Wow, unreal. Adam Klotz is live for us in the Fox Extreme Weather Center with what we can expect in the Northeast today. I can already tell you, cold, 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 Adam.
Yeah, incredibly cold, which means any of that snow folks got yesterday, well, it's not going to be going anywhere, certainly not melting. And look at some of these numbers. Really impressive snowfall totals. Upstate New York getting into the mid-30 range. Lots of folks hovering there in the 30s, at least in the 20s if you're a little farther inland. That is what we saw yesterday, and it's not going to go anywhere. Look at some of these current numbers. 21 degrees here in Metro New York City. A lot of places falling down into the teens. 20s up and down the coast. It is still windy out there. We had incredibly strong gusts yesterday. Still gusty and windy this morning, and that's why you're looking at a feels-like temperature or a wind chill of 7 degrees in New York, staying in single digits all along the coast, farther inland, maybe closer to 0 in Buffalo. It is cold out there this morning. It's not just the Northeast, though. Cold air really funneling down across the entire eastern half of the country. So take a look at this. This is the Southeast. It's even stretching down into central Florida. We're looking at freeze watches and warnings for tomorrow morning. These temperatures are going to be down into the teens, stretching well south in the country. Cold air, winter, well, it looks like it's going to be sticking around for a couple more days, guys.
28 in northern Florida.
Well, I was going to say, you're headed to Florida.
I was so excited about this weekend. Really, of all times.
My bad, I guess.
It's all your fault, Adam. I blame you. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Well, the time is now about 39 after the hour, and the president making a big push to get the GOP's health care plan through Congress. What our next guest says the president needs to prove to conservatives in order to seal the deal.
And are you sick of paying hundreds of dollars to scalpers to go see your favorite bands?
Yes.
Well, there's a new system to save you money.
Pancake, baker's milk. As fast as you can.
How cute. One father learns all of his sacrifices are worth it for our country when his child sees him for the first time. The touching moment that will melt your heart this morning.
Beautiful.
Oh, cute.
Well, President Trump's bill to repeal and replace Obamacare is about to face its biggest hurdle yet. The House Budget Committee, filled with conservatives from the Freedom Caucus, that has opposed the bill, saying it doesn't go far enough.
So what can the president do to strike that deal? Brian Brenberg, chair of business and finance at the King's College in New York, is here to help us break this all down. Brian, good to have you here this morning.
Good morning.
Always good to be here.
All right, this is really the president's first big test on making that deal, something he promised that he would be good at if he won this election. He's going to Nashville later today to make his case, but how does he convince some of these Freedom Caucus members who aren't on board yet to get on board? Because they still say this has got too much government involved, right?
Yeah, he has to persuade them that this isn't Obamacare light. He has to show them that this is the first step on the road to a truly free market healthcare system. And that's a big lift because a lot of these House Freedom Caucus members are skeptical about that. They see this as just another extension of Obamacare, not a big change. He has to change that narrative, and so he has to be on the offensive here, talking about how this is actually going to create more choice, more competition, and better outcomes for Americans.
And there are 22 Republicans on that panel on the Budget Committee. So one of the things that Sean Spicer had to say yesterday was that this isn't the first time that the CBO would have been wrong. Listen to this.
In 2013, the CBO estimated that 24 million people would have coverage under Obamacare in 2016. They were way off. They were off by 13 million people, over 50%. CBO coverage estimates are consistently wrong and, more importantly, did not take into consideration the comprehensive nature of the three-pronged plan to repeal and replace Obamacare with the American Health Care Act.
So is that a good argument for President Trump to use as he, presents his plan, that the CBO is wrong?
Well, I think what you want to say is that CBO estimates aren't fact. They're estimates, and they're trying to project what's going to happen in a very complex market over a period of 10 years. You're not going to be able to do that 100% correct. So when you look at the CBO, you say, thank you for the estimate. It's a data point. We can use it in the conversation, but we're not bound by it because you're going to be wrong one way or another. Let's talk about the substance of the bill. Let's talk about how it It opens up markets. That's where the conversation should focus. It shouldn't be exclusively tied to CBO estimates.
Yeah, as the vice president said, that the CBO, they're not good at predicting what happens in the marketplace. For what happened with Obamacare, they predicted that millions would go on these exchanges. I think they were off by like
24 million.
13 million they were off by. Brian, what's going to happen here? How do you see this playing out? Do you think that the president will be able to make this deal happen?
I think you'll see some modifications coming out of the House Budget Committee. They can't actually make the modifications. They'll make the recommendations. You might see some transitions on the tax credits, bringing those down a little bit, making those a little bit less generous for higher income folks. You might see some changes on the Medicaid phase out. Maybe that happens a little bit sooner. I don't think they're going to be fundamental changes, but some changes on the margin. The real test is going to come in the Senate. You have a lot of skeptics in the Senate. So even if it gets through the House Budget Committee, stay tuned, because that's where the big fight's going to be.
And in order to get through the Budget Committee, they can't lose 4, right? Is that the number?
They can't lose 4. It's a very slim margin, so he's got to get everybody on the Republican side basically on board with this. That's a big lift.
And then there's part 2 and 3 to come.
Exactly.
Brian Brenberg, good to have you here this morning.
Thank you, Brian.
Always good to be here.
Well, now let's check in with Steve Doocy to see what is coming up on Fox and Friends. And I know you're going to talk a little bit more about this, I'm guessing. Hey, Steve.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about Rachel Maddow. I think she was out to get the president, but she actually wound up doing him a favor. Turns out the president, when he was a businessman, made a lot of money and paid a lot of taxes, but the investigative reporters saw it completely different. Watch this.
$36.5 million. He paid 24%. You know who pays 24% in this country? Married couples with 2 incomes, like my wife and I, who make about $400,000 a year. Top in this country, people at the top are not burdened the way we suggest.
Well, as it turns out, Donald Trump paid more taxes than the former president of the United States, paid more taxes than Warren Buffett, paid more taxes than Bernie Sanders. Oops. We're going to talk all about this with David Bossie, Stuart Varney, and Ed Henry. Got a busy 3 hours, kicks off 13 minutes from right now, right here, ladies, on the channel you trust for your morning news.
All right, a lot to chew on this morning. Thank you, Steve.
Dramatically different Bernie Sanders. He paid 13%.
Right? We'll be right back.
Yeah, stay with us.
Back with the Fox News Alert. A major move today to deliver justice in the massive Yahoo hack attack.
Yeah, Cheryl Casoni from our sister network, Fox Business, here with the latest on that. Good morning, Cheryl.
Good morning. Well, this is going to be some big news today, guys. So this morning, we expect to hear something from the DOJ. What we think we're going to hear is that it's going to be charges in that massive hacking attack against Yahoo. There were 2 attacks, one back in 2014 that we learned way after the fact. That was about 500 million accounts. And, of course, that 1 billion user account hack that happened in 2016. All we know is that we're going to hear some kind of announcement from the DOJ. That's going to be later this morning. But you should also remember that this whole hack actually took the value of Yahoo down. Verizon, of course, buying Yahoo, but they used it as a bargaining chip to basically get Yahoo for a cheaper price. But we're going to know more later today about this.
So 2 people from Russia, apparently, and then 1 from Canada.
Yeah, that's what we think, but we can't get confirmation from DOJ. We'll know today.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a cheaper price, the crackdown to save maybe some money on concert tickets.
Yeah, I've done these stories before, guys, where you get these scammers, these scalpers that are buying tickets up. I mean, in large bulk on websites in seconds, so that the regular folks out there can't get a ticket to see U2 or Coldplay. Well, now what Ticketmaster is launching is a verified fan program. So far, pretty successful. You enter things like your email, you answer questions. I mean, we're seeing this with a lot of websites and security now, but they say that it's really already having a big effect, so that regular people can log in and get tickets at a regular
Does it count for
price.
Sports too?
Everything.
Okay,
good. Ticketmaster. So big games, concerts, you name it.
All right. So if you're flying to a big concert or a game, American Airlines bringing back free food.
You can fuel up. Yeah, I told you about this a few weeks ago. It's now it's starting up. American, as of May 1st, is going to be offering meals on some flights, free meals in coach, not just business class, of course. But it's not just American. Delta is going to be expanding their meal program on the 24th of April, and then Hawaiian Airlines is also going to be giving out meals. We were just talking about warm weather in the commercial break, like between the U.S. and Hawaii on those longer flights.
I mean, you certainly pay enough for your tickets. You might as well get a gourmet meal.
More than peanuts. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
You bet.
Well, another story that's a little disturbing this morning. Ben Affleck confessing announcing that he just completed a stint in rehab for alcohol addiction. The actor says that he took it upon himself to get help because his problems with alcohol abuse started back up again. Writing this in a Facebook post. I have completed treatment for alcohol addiction, something I've dealt with in the past and will continue to confront. This was the first of many steps being taken towards a positive recovery. He also got help, you may remember, for alcohol abuse back in 2001. Affleck and Jennifer Garner also calling off their divorce last month. Alcohol reportedly fueling Affleck and his wife Jennifer's divorce, but the two called off the divorce last month.